All right, Austin. So before we get into it, I have to ask you questions about Factory X,
hmm
specifically about your teammates.
hmm
This is the Factory X worst list. So I want you to just say the first guy that comes to your head when I say this.
All right.
All right, who would be the worst roommate of all your teammates? If you had to have a roommate, who would be the worst one?
Probably Brian Mitchell.
That's what Oscar said.
Yeah. Shock.
Who would be the worst wingman?
Ooh, tough one. Um, I mean, they're all pretty much ladies, man. I don't think there'd be a bad wingman on our team, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I have to think about that one.
And who's the worst dancer?
Oh, where's Dancer? Yusuf Zalal.
Oh, that's cool,
He's gonna
man.
he's gonna he's gonna rise to the challenge. Though I know. I call him out. He's gonna be like, what, bro? I could dance. I could dance.
Yeah, I'll have to like send that to him then. That's I will. I'll definitely have to spam Yusuf Zalal and just send it. I'll just send him the link. I'm not going to say anything
Yeah.
else. What is up, everybody? Is your guy Tyler here with Mom's Basement MMA, and I have my friend Austin Osmosis Jones with us. Austin, it's been a minute since I saw you last. I did make your acquaintance at your fight in South Carolina, and I gotta ask, man, like, what have you been up to? Like, apart from the fighting, man, like, you've been a busy guy, so I just gotta ask, since I last saw you, what's life been like for you?
I mean, fighting is definitely that's literally just the lifestyle. I mean, we all say that as fighters, but I think a lot of fighters think of their career in terms of fight camps. But I've just been training and just if there's an opportunity, I take it. I think there's no reason to cherry pick these fights. I think those type of fighters, honestly, based on what I've gone through, they're just fake to me, and I've beaten some of those guys, and I don't back down from a fight, and it kind of bites me in the ass a little bit, but it also makes me a better fighter for when the big fights come. So I know I'll be ready.
You are, in my opinion, a type of fighter that frustrates a lot of people. You're a frustrating guy to have to game plan for. There are a few things about just you as a fighter that stand out to me, and I want to share some of that with you. You are excellent at takedowns. Your takedown defense is very good. You're patient. You're very strong, and your submission defense in particular also stands out to me. I feel and rightfully so, because you're such a great grappler and so good and adept at taking guys down. Their game plan is, okay, I'm going to let him take me down and I'm going to go for a sub. But like, that, like, your submission defense is great. And I just kind of want to pivot there and give you the opportunity from a stylistic standpoint. Is like, what is it about you that you would want people to know that have never seen you go before?
Kind of just exactly what you said. I don't want people to know what I'm necessarily going to do in there. I know people know my grappling is a go-to thing. Submissions, that's kind of where I feel the most comfortable. But I'm here to be a mixed martial artist, and I always remind myself too. I'm a Division I athlete, so I can adapt and kind of just let myself be free in there. I think playing running back definitely helps with that because you have your assignment, supposed to carry out your assignment, but you're also supposed to be as human as you possibly can be in that moment and go with your intuition. So a lot of it's just intuition and also just curiosity when I fight, not being locked into one thing and just going in there and finding out what I'm capable of. And I think, especially as far as my career goes, I've done a lot of physical things great, but the big emphasis I've been putting on in my game is the mental aspect. So I think I haven't even shown that yet. So I think people are in a pleasant surprise for my future fights. So that's all I got to say about that. But
I think you're at an exciting chapter in your mixed martial arts career. Obviously, you are training at a Factory X. That's one of the best gyms in the country. You're surrounded by some of the best fighters in the game at all various weight classes. And one of the other things that I like your age. You're at your athletic prime right now.
mm,
And I feel like when guys fight you, you're 170 pounds, and you and I are like the same height. We're both like 5'9". And I'm sure you've heard a lot in the past, like, dude, you're too small for 170. But you're
yeah,
yoked. You are yoked. And like there was you, and then Tanner is Saracito is like 6'2". The guy's
mm,
freaking huge. And I don't think like he was anticipating you would be as strong as you are. Is that something you hear a lot about? Like people are like, Austin, man, why are you at 70? You should be at 55 or even 45.
mm.
Like, have you heard that a lot? Like as you've gone through your career?
Yeah, I've heard it a lot. But kind of going back to what you're just saying is, I'm pretty lean, so I do sweat real easy to get to 170. Like it's not like a crazy, I'm not dying when I cut weight. I would hope for like a 165 division one day. Or even the 75, because then I can kind of swing in both. But 170, I feel like that's where I fight best. And I mean, I don't mind fighting guys that are a little bigger than me because I know in the later rounds that's when I tend to thrive. So I mean, I got to give the credit to that, just being able to last in fights. To my teammates, we have excellent training partners. All these guys, from what I see, will be at the highest level at some point in their careers. So I've gone and done tons of rounds with Dustin Jacoby, Anthony Smith. Those are all tall, lengthy guys, and I mean that's probably the hardest fight I'll take as far as that goes. So even Cody Brundage, like those are all big guys, taller guys. So it helps me out a lot in that regard. So
This in 2021, this bout that you're about to undertake on November 14th at Fury FC 53. This is your 5th fight of the year. You have been incredibly active. Like that's kind of insane. I'm gonna like pause there. That's kind of insane. Most guys only go 2-3 times a year. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, Austin. Like, how is your body? Like from a physical standpoint, how are you able to stay so active? I know your cardio is amazing. You showcase that time and time again. You're always in shape. How are you always in shape? And it's inevitable, right? Like that volume, that amount of fights, like when you get nicked up, when you get banged up, like you must heal like Wolverine. I gotta ask, like, how are you doing all this?
I think it's kind of just going back to the mental side of the game. I spoke with Randy Caruso. He does our matchmaking, and he's like, "Look, man, after I fought Tyler Ray, I lost that fight in the first round. He choked me out. Didn't tap, by the way. But yeah, after that fight, he's like, hey, man, like, because I took like a 2-year layoff because of COVID and everything. But after that, he's like, let's just keep you busy, man. There's no need to overthink this stuff. You can be just as beat up in training, even without a fight coming up. So the main thing for me, especially between fights, that kind of kept me going, just continue to learn and not necessarily like, oh, next fight, we're in a fight camp. We're in a fight camp. We're in a fight camp. I just took the approach of like, I'm just training every day. And then like that fight is just a glorified, sparring session. So, but as far as like health and all that stuff goes, I think I'm just really blessed in that regard. But again, it kind of goes back to my athleticism and being able to weather some storms and just staying fit. Got to give a ton of props to Lando Performance as well. That's our strength and conditioning. They're never there just to like kill our bodies. Like they know if they kind of know what situation we're in. So if you have a lot of fights, they're not going to just, murder your body and wear you out. So they make sure I'm fit for the ability to do that many fights. And honestly, it's been a blast. And I didn't win them all, but I also don't know any other 170s that are doing what I do. So I say they should step their game up and quit being pussies and quit analyzing their opponents and just, if you got an opportunity, take it. If you don't win, you don't win. The whole point is to find out. So I don't
And
see the big.
that's so refreshing about you. Like, obviously, having a show about mixed martial arts, I talk to fighters all over the country. I can tell you authoritatively, I don't know any person at any weight class who's gone five in 12 months. Not even. That's an insane pace, and it just shows that you're not afraid of anybody, and you'll fight who's ever there. Whatever body they want to put in front of you, you will take. When we look at some of these guys, and we've mentioned a couple of them, Tyler Ray, Tanner Saraceno, Zach Busia, and then Juan Gonzalez, those are the four, and it's been kind of like a mixed bag. And just briefly hitting on the Gonzalez fight, I thought that was kind of more of like a stalemate. It seemed like you were a little frustrated. Like, here's basically what your fight was like. It was in the clinch, up against the fence, and you guys were just trading position, trading that dominant position for most of the fight. When you pan out and look at all four of them, is there a fight in particular that like stands out at you? Is there one that you look at and like you look at the entire body of work and you're like, yeah, I'm mostly satisfied with that one?
I'd probably say the Saraceno fight, mainly because I was coming off that loss against Tyler Ray. Um, and I think Saraceno, he was number one out of South Carolina, so it's always nice to add one of those to my list as far as beating number one guys. I think guys, they might look at my record and think, okay, this guy's beatable, but I mean, you got to really take it from me to stop me, I feel like. But yeah, that fight really stood out because, I was going into his territory, and to be honest, I was pretty nervous that fight, considering, it's whenever your back's against the wall, you're gonna feel that pressure going into it. I mean, even after this Gonzalez fight, I feel a lot better about it because I feel like I won that fight. And going back and watching them, like these are easy things I can fix in my mental game, which I keep going back to. Next time, just go in there and just fucking fight him and let him figure you out, not the other way around.
I'm glad you mentioned the Saraceno fight. I know that you know this because we've talked about it a few different times, but I want everyone who's watching the show to know, like, you are not lying or exaggerating when you say that guy had home field advantage. He did. I was there. I was there. I was right by the cage, and I almost got my ass whipped rooting for you. I wanted you to win. I was like the only one. And that's a big thing. Like, everyone's cheering for this guy. It's a packed arena. There's thousands of people, and all eyes are on you. Obviously, you've been in big shows before, so it wasn't so much that, but like you are very much going into this guy's territory. A lot of people are high on this guy, and you suffocated him and made him quit. Like, he came at you, and when I was watching this fight unfold in front of me, going into the third, I was like, this is anybody's fight. I was like, it's probably one apiece right now. I think I gave you the first, and then I could kind of see them maybe giving him the second.
Yeah.
But going into the third, I'm like, this is really, damn, like, this is a close freaking fight, and I don't really know who's got it. When you were going into the third, were you thinking kind of similarly, like, it's probably anyone's fight right now?
Yeah, in the third, I felt like I was like, I started getting my second win a little bit, but I also knew, like, I mean, if he takes this round, obviously this is gonna be his fight. It's in his home field, and so I just knew I had to pick up the pace a little bit, but it was still like a tough round just going into it because the second round there was a ton of scrambling, like even in the first round. And I don't think people really recognize when they see that in a fight, like all these two guys in the ground are just laying on each other, rolling around. But in that fight, I mean, there was tons of submission attempts. Just getting out of those subs and then like maintaining position after that is what makes that fight super grueling, and that's why it was such a crazy experience. But it literally came down to me just pushing myself in that third round, and I kind of felt him starting to weather once he realized he couldn't take me down in that third. So that's when I knew
I appreciated that fight way more after I got home, because when you're attending an event like that in person, unless you're like a commentator, an official, something like that, there's a lot of that ground game that you're not going to see from where I was sitting. Like, I was so close, like the Jumbotron or whatever that didn't help me because it was like literally right on top of my head, so I couldn't see it. So as soon as it was posted on YouTube and I saw it, like, to your point, the ground game, like there were a lot of subs that he was trying to pull off on you. that you were able to defend. Like that goes back to your submission defense. I feel like a lot of guys try to do that against you. But I remember specifically the moment that stands out in that fight was after the first. You clipped him. He didn't want to get up. He didn't want to answer that bell. Like I could tell. Like, did you know how tired he was at the end of
Oh
the
yeah,
first?
like just getting up, he got up real slow.
He didn't want to get up. But, like he did not want that, and like going into it, you train in the Denver, Colorado area. I mean, my mom lives in Colorado, and that's like a real thing. Even if you're not an athlete, you're just walking around. If you're not used to it, it hits you.
It gets you. Yeah.
And you have to drink like a ton of water, like, or else you get pounding headaches. Like, it's a real thing. And like, is that like a huge advantage for you? You feel like when you go to these places like Kansas City, when you go to South Carolina, like, do you feel like that being that you live in the Denver area, does that like give you a huge advantage over some of these guys?
Yeah, I say it does because like when I get down there and we do like our workouts and everything, I'm like, it takes even a little minute to like blow your lungs out. You want to bust out your lungs a couple times when you're getting warmed up, so you get familiar with the breathing, especially out here, obviously. But down there, it's like I'm still doing the work, but then I'm recovering super fast with my breathing. I think I probably breathe better in the moisture a little bit too. So the humidity definitely helps, and obviously just having that advantage coming down. But during the fight, you really don't think about it, but I'm
Right.
sure it pays off. Because it seems like the more the rounds go, I start to pick it up. So
I think that, and I don't really want to talk a whole lot about the Gonzalez fight. I think it was kind of a stalemate, and I think it was kind of one of those situations where on a different day you fight that fight exactly the same. It's a potentially different outcome. Very, very much so. It was really hard to kind of like authoritatively say who had that one. I just but looking at that and then the Ray fight, it's just kind of like, okay, the Gonzalez fight that could go 50-50 fight, toss up, and then just wherever that one lands is where it's going to land. The Ray fight, you got caught, but like also like the Zach Busia fight, that was a fight that you go to Missouri for, and James Krause is in your corner. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like having James Krause, one of the most highly respected MMA coaches in the game? I know obviously he's also a competitor, but what was that experience like?
oh man, it was amazing. It was great. He's so good at just taking guys in and just making them feel good. Like he has just that aura about him. Obviously, he also has a big ass house, so we were able to do our shakeout there. He showed me his cars, and it was kind of a good time. But yeah, he was just super chill in the back. There's no like crazy like pep talk. He was just like, we're just hanging out, and he's like, just go out there and fight. And he's like, trust your athleticism. You're too much for this guy. He's really good at affirming you, not even just in the back, but during the fight. So and again, like Zach Bushia, that's another scary fight. I don't think I've had a non-scary fight all year. So it just is what it is. So yeah, because I think he had like close to 30 fights, and that's a crazy matchup if you think about it. I don't care who you are. People with that many fights, those aren't easy fights.
That was a fight where you probably, I know it was one judge gave him a round. The other two they chalked it up for you 30-27. Maybe I'm kind of a homer. I thought you got a 10-8 in one of those because he, like in the first in particular, you suffocated him. He really couldn't do anything. I thought some of his subs were kind of desperate. I was surprised. Like I probably would have given it to you 30-26. People might say that's a homerish thing for me to say, but I try to be very objective when I look at some of these fights. I thought you deserved a 10-8 for one of those, but at the end of the day, you won the bout. My favorite part of that fight, though, was when he got you in that armbar and you were able to escape from it. That was my favorite part of the fight. When we talk about submission defense, that's one of those things that people don't really talk a whole lot about. It's always offensively. But getting out of that, I know that had to have hurt like a son of a bitch, and he was probably close to getting it. Can you talk a little bit about your submission defense in the Busia fight? Because there are times you had to rely on that quite a bit in that fight.
That's that's totally just getting my butt kicked in the gym. You know, um, going against all these great training partners at Factory X, you're gonna get stuff thrown at you, whether it's the hands, the kicks, the knees, elbows, all that stuff. Everyone's got submissions at our gym. Great wrestling, great grappling. We're typically known for our striking, but I think people definitely sleep on our jiu-jitsu, and it's only getting better, thanks to Professor Scotty and Professor Busy. But yeah, constantly just getting submission attacks, and it's just either you're gonna keep tapping or you're gonna learn. So either way, um, that's how we get better with that. So
Yeah.
and just drilling it, I think we just like we're so focused on our offense, but if you learn the defense, the offense seems to be pretty easy because you have to know what the attack is before you even try it. So
Well, you got out of it, and I think it was that was like a last gasp thing. As soon as you got out of that, I knew you won. It was just like that's it. That was his Hail Mary, and he doesn't have any time left. And you had to have felt really good at the conclusion of that, waiting for the scores to come in. You had to have known you did enough. Like you had to have known, like no, that's mine. I got that one. Aside from the Gonzalez fight, we talked about that a little bit. It was kind of a stalemate. I would tell anyone watching this who hasn't seen the fight, you probably don't even need to watch the fight. Believe me when I say it was a clinch battle and it went back and forth. That was pretty much the extent of it. You came away. I could tell you were frustrated. Was the plan after you got back from Pueblo to get back out there as soon as you can, or is it one of those things where it's like I'm going to take some time off? Can you talk a little bit about like where were you at mentally after the Gonzalez fight, and what happened between then and the Fury FC opportunity showing up?
yeah, I was a little disappointed. I still think I won the fight. Like, I mean, if you he kind of initiated the whole grappling exchange, and didn't want to get away from it. Even when I was grappling him, he pulled me into him almost like when I had him against the cage. Even I couldn't even like really separate and do what I wanted to do. But kudos to him because that was his game plan and apparently it worked. But I got a lot from that fight in a sense of like don't go on there fighting to avoid danger, be the danger. So that's just been my goal, whether it's on the ground or on the feet now. It's like dictate the pace of the fight, and if you fail, you fail. At least you went out there and you try to impose your will, and you didn't leave anything out there. So I think in that fight, I was more disappointed in myself because I feel like I could have followed the game plan a little better and then made the fight a lot easier. But that mistake and that adversity, I think, has prepared me for this fight. Let's say I come out with the win against Gonzalez, but then I end up fighting the same way I do in this next fight. I mean, that's not super impressive for anybody. So I had to kind of break through that mental barrier. And if it works this fight, great. If it doesn't, I got to work on it some more and just continue to grow. And that's kind of where I mentioned I don't understand why guys cherry pick fights because you could be 8-0, but then now you're fighting some real motherfuckers in the UFC, and then what? So just don't take things face value. Like they'll see how I fight very soon. So
You are backing up exactly what you're saying you're all about when you take a fight against a guy like Montrell Jones or James. I'm sorry, Montrell James is his name. This is a fight where people are going to look at this, and no matter what happens, like if you beat this guy, people would say, well, Austin, you're supposed to beat this guy. He doesn't have a very good record. You're supposed to beat this guy. This should be a slam dunk. It's in Denver. You're on your home field. You have home field advantage for this one. Everyone in Factory X is going to show up. No matter what you do, it doesn't. You could Jorge the guy right away, and people are going to be like, that was supposed to happen. And I think people look at a guy like James and say to themselves like, this guy's a scrub. He's not that great. But when you look at his record and you look at like what he's been able to do, he's taken a lot of boxing bouts. And I kind of like, if people think James is a scrub, look at his last MMA fight. I guarantee you he went into that fight feeling disrespected, not being taken seriously. He goes up against an undefeated guy. The thought process was, this is a can. We're going to try to build our guy up. James sleeps this guy less than a minute into the fight. He sleeps him. I'll say this. I think the guy was unconscious when he hit the canvas. It's
Oh
officially
yeah,
it's officially credited as a rear naked choke for James. I think the guy was unconscious before that choke even
Mhm.
happened, and the ref was just late on the call. I think he's a dangerous guy, record
sure.
withstanding. What are your thoughts? Like, how did the James fight show up? Was this somebody the promotion just wanted to put in front of you? Is this a guy that you wanted? How did that work? And what's your opinion on James overall?
Well, I mean, I give him props for stepping in because there's again, I'm bringing up guys that have great records, and I was offered to fight them. Part of the reason I'm not on the main card is because a couple guys backed out with winning records. So it's like, I mean, would they even fight Montrell if they got offered? Because it's like, I mean, I don't understand. You're about to fight in front of the president of the UFC, and you don't take that fight. But that's on them. I'm going to make the most out of this opportunity. I know I've watched Montrell's fights, and I'm taking them very serious. Those are the type of guys you got to watch out for. It's still a professional fight. You can't look at somebody's record and assume, well, I'm just going to blow through this guy. We're talking human instinct here. We're talking people literally are trying not to die in there. So whoever wants to win the most, the best guy on that night is going to win. And that's that. So I've learned that throughout my fights.
And you've fought guys like this before. You've been in the game for a long time.
And they fight hard. They fight hard every time.
You've been in this game a long time. Like in the amateur scene, you did very, very well. You've been able to be a professional since 2015. Like, you cannot compete at your level unless you're good. Like, eventually, like, promos will just be like, we've had enough. Like, you're not any good. You're not a sell. You can't compete in the professional circuit as long as you have been, unless you have talent, unless you have some interest about you. And when you look at a guy like James, I look at him and I'm just like, this guy, I wouldn't want to fight this guy. Like, he has all he needs is one punch right on the chin and it's over. And from a preparation standpoint, do you have to game plan guys like when you're fighting against a brawler type or a striker like him? Do you have to approach it a little bit differently? Because obviously, I don't think I'm saying anything that's mind blowing, or I don't think I'm giving anything away when I say if I am Osmosis Jones, I'm gonna take this guy down. I'm suffocating him like I do everybody, and I'm gonna impose my will on him on the ground. If I'm James, it's takedown defense, takedown defense, takedown defense. I'm gonna pop this guy in the mouth. How does that, like? Obviously, I think that's how everyone kind of views this fight. From a preparation standpoint, do you have to do anything different, knowing that the game plan isn't probably a secret for either one of you?
I could just go back to it. It all depends on what I do. Coming in there mentally strong. I really don't know what I've seen him shoot takedowns in fights before, so I don't truly know what his plan is. I'm just focused on what I know his style, so now that I know his style and what he likes to throw, just prepare for that and then go from there. Whether it's on the feet the whole fight or on the ground. So.
Well, Austin, it sounds like you are very prepared and you are very much so looking forward to this bout. I know that I am. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to, shout out whoever needs shouting out before I let you go, because I know it takes an army for these types of things. I know you have a lot of people that support you and get you ready for these things, so I wanted to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, but first and foremost, shout out to Factory X, of course. Land Up Performance, Drip Beverage, Thick Ass Glass. They make these awesome bongs. They don't break. HK USA for supplying me with training gear. Feeling great going to the camp, and My Fit Foods as well.
All right, fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Austin Osmosis Jones. Please follow him on Instagram. The link for that is right underneath his mug. By the time you see it, it'll already be on there. So check him out. Be sure to watch his fight. It'll be streaming on the prelims on Facebook.